Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 326, Pros and Con Artists. The episode begins with Ash and the gang finally having made it to Fall Arbor Town, with May super excited about her second contest that was fast approaching, and she even got more excited as she could see the contest hall in the distance, deeper in the town. Max actually spotted the hall first and pointed it out to May, who declared that she was going to win the contest no matter what, and she was going to be confident, not scared. As she went as far as to have a fantasy about herself winning the contest with her Beautyfly, and Ash and Brock cheering her on and supporting her when she won. May then sent out her Beautyfly right now, and expressed her confidence that the two of them would win the contest, as she showed Beautyfly the outside of the contest hall as they overlooked Fall Arbor Town, pointing to the contest hall and informing Beautyfly that the contest would be soon. Soon enough, Ash and the gang entered the contest hall, where Brock was amazed by the many beautiful girls that he was surrounded by, who were all contestants in the contest, which made May worried as she analyzed all the contestants and their numerous mons, knowing that she would have to go up against all these other coordinators. Just some of the coordinators competing had a Wigglytuff, a Natu, a Meryl, a Hoppip, an Espeon, a Teddiursa, a Smoochum, a Kecleon, a Shelgon, and an Electrike. May then took particular interest in a mysterious girl coordinator sitting alone on a bench with only her Pokemon beside her, although her Pokemon was practicing its Meditate attack by floating in the air in a sitting position. Ash and the gang were intrigued by this, so they went to check it out, and May scanned Medicham with her Pokedex and found out that it was a Medicham, and apparently a master of telekinesis with the ability Pure Power, that had the ability to, levitate shit. Just as Ash and the gang learn of the Pure Power ability, they then see it in effect as Medicham uses it to lift up Max's glasses fully into the air and does the same thing to several other objects in the room, such as Ash's hat, as well as Pikachu himself, followed by Ash and the gang's backpacks. Ash and the gang look around concerned and see that even a girl's skirt was being lifted up, apparently. Okay, I'm pretty sure that was only in the Japanese version, but still. Seeing this, the Medicham's trainer, who was meditating with it, stops meditating and instructs the Medicham to do the same, and it obliges, so all the objects fall back down to the ground, including Pikachu, which Ash catches. The Medicham's trainer then apologizes for the disturbance, explaining that her Medicham accidentally unleashed a burst of psychic powers without fully controlling it, clarifying that was precisely why she was practicing with her Medicham to do psychic powers in the first place, so that something like that couldn't happen again. But unfortunately, it did. Anyways, Brock was immediately attracted to the woman upon seeing her and hearing her speak, and did his usual flirting with her, leading him to get dragged off by Max by the ear. May comes up to the Medicham's trainer and apologizes to her on Brock's behalf, explaining that Brock always did shit like that when he saw a beautiful girl, every beautiful girl, which makes the Medicham's trainer laugh hysterically in embarrassment after hearing that someone actually thought she was beautiful. Because of her laughter, she accidentally shoves May over into Ash, knocking them both over. The Medicham's trainer blushes at this, embarrassed even more for accidentally knocking May and Ash over, although May soon gets back up and states that she was entering the contest and asks if this girl was entering the contest as well, wanting to make sure. But unfortunately, this question backfired on May, as the girl took it as a stupid question, thinking it was obvious that she'd be entering the contest since she was in the goddamn contest hall, and starts laughing hysterically again, accidentally slapping May and with this time, as well as knocking her back, though not into Ash, as Ash was smart enough to dodge this time. The woman then stops laughing, realizing that she was kind of getting out of control, and apologizes for her behavior and for pushing May away, as she then introduces herself as Grace, and also introduces her Medicham. To apologize even further for her behavior, Grace offers to take Ash and the gang out to dinner at the Pokemon Center, and she places an order for some food, although Brock stops the order, and they simply just sit at the Pokemon Center, and Brock offers up a whole bunch of his food instead, and puts it all over the table. And Brock was very happy, blushing, as Grace happily ate his food, while talking about the contest to May. Brock was also hyped because he was sitting right next to her, while everyone else was sitting across the table, and it made him feel like he was on a first date with her, since he was so close to her, and he got ready to make a move to flirt with her. As for Ash, May, and Max's reaction to Grace's speed eating, they were kind of startled, as they didn't expect her to eat like that. Brock remained happy, having a fantasy about him and Grace making some food together and eating it together. Specifically, he had a fantasy about him feeding her. Damn. Anyways, Ash then asked Grace how good she was at contests, asking if she's won any, leading Grace to pull out proudly a ribbon case, 3 ribbons, meaning that she's won 3 contests already, which Max was not impressed by, not understanding what was so cool about the ribbons, making Max get slapped by May, since May was pissed off at Max not taking ribbons seriously by now. Upon getting slapped, Max talks to Grace, saying that she must be confident about the upcoming contest if she's won 3 ribbons, and Grace confirms this, which makes May nervous. She was already nervous at the fact that Grace had 3 ribbons, but the fact that she was confident made her even more scared. May ends up taking her nervousness out on Max by slapping him again, this time causing him to fall to the ground, since she blamed him for talking about Grace's confidence in the first place, and that was what made her insecure. May then tries to take her mind off of her nervousness by asking Grace how she had managed to acquire 3 ribbons, and asked if Grace had any advice for her as an up-and-coming coordinator. Grace replied that she had won all her ribbons due to her trusty friend Medicham, as well as luck, and due to the opponents that she faced not being too difficult, stating that a lot of contests didn't even come down to a trainer's skill, but solely just luck and who your opponent was. Although the chances of a person winning weren't entirely based on outside factors, as Grace also added that there was a 0% chance a coordinator could win until they learned how to use their Pokemon's powers and looks completely to their advantage. Unfortunately, Grace telling May all this only made her even more nervous, as she saw that if Grace knew all of this, then there was no way that she wouldn't be able to win, especially with her Medicham, and she really feared having to face Grace in her Medicham. Grace goes into a hysterical laughing fit as she covers her face embarrassingly, once again, flattered by the fact that May thought she was such a good coordinator. Seeing that May was still nervous though, questioning if she should even bother entering the contest, Grace laughed once again, stating that May shouldn't just give up like that, and offered to show May some of Medicham's attacks to ease her nervousness. May was skeptical of this, thinking that it would just make her more scared to go up against Grace, but Grace assured her that Medicham's moves were so beautiful they could relax anything, and anyone, assuring May that Medicham had that talent. So, May and Grace went outside the Pokemon Center, and she sent out her Medicham and had it use Ice Punch a few times, showing the beauty in the sparkling ice of its fist as the ice came out of it. And then she had Medicham use Psychic and had it jump up in the air in the middle of the moonlight, as the Psychic attack then lifted up all of the Ice Punch particles further into the air, creating a sparkling display of star-like things, even though it was really just specks of ice. Brock, Max, and Ash came outside as well, and Brock saw this beautiful display, commenting that it was an excellent combination of moves. Medicham then dances and poses in midair, lifting itself up with the Psychic, and soon descends down to the ground slowly, leading May to remark that even she was extremely impressed, and she admitted that she'd never even thought of combining moves before, so she decided that she was going to try combining moves when she practiced first thing tomorrow. And she did just that, going outside the Pokemon Center the next day at the crack of dawn and sending out her Beautyfly, immediately ordering it to use Silverwind and Tackle at the same time to combine the moves. Both of these attacks were successful, but midway through the tackle, May couldn't make up her mind and decided to order a different move, being a Gust combined with the Silverwind, instead of a Tackle combined with the Silverwind. Although May then changes her mind again and tells Beautyfly to use String Shot combined with Gust, completely getting rid of the Silverwind now. However, Beautyfly was so confused by May not being able to make up her mind, and was able to get off the Gust successfully, but the String Shot ended up getting blown back into Beautyfly by the Gust, entangling it. May was embarrassed by her blunder, and went to go return Beautyfly, but right as she was about to do so, she spotted the last person that she wanted to see right now, Drew, as she would immediately get embarrassed, knowing that Drew had likely seen her failure, and sure enough, Drew had. And instantly insults May's indecisiveness and how bad May's combinations were, admitting that they were not fucking working, and bragging that he and his Roselia would do way better than May and her Beautyfly, as he then tosses her one of Roselia's roses to show off that Roselia had the capability of making such beautiful roses. May actually thanked him for the rose, admitting that it smelled good, but Drew reminded May that just like before, the only reason why he was giving roses was because he wanted her Beautyfly to have them, since he felt bad for Beautyfly having May as a trainer due to her incompetence. Also claiming that the only reason why he even came to May was to see Beautyfly, although May doubted this, knowing that Drew loved to mess with her. Drew then changes the subject of the conversation, asking if May had won any ribbons, knowing that she hadn't. May becomes nervous, obviously not wanting to admit that she hadn't won any, so she instead fires the question back at Drew, asking if he had won any ribbons, but this question backfires on May, as Drew proudly reveals, by showing May his ribbon case, that he had earned 3 contest ribbons. May was shocked and pissed off, as Drew taunted May, saying that coordinators with no ribbons would have a tough time at the Fall Arbor contest, and took his leave, saying that May better get to training with her Beautyfly if she wanted to stand a chance, leaving May immensely angry. Meanwhile, Team Rocket had also arrived in Fall Arbor Town, and they had disguised themselves as salesmen, and they asked a man who was passing by, who claimed he was a coordinator, if he wanted to win the upcoming contest, along with any future contests. The man assumed that Jesse and James were salesmen, and were probably selling Pokeblocks that would help in the contest, and said that he wanted to buy some. Jesse and James didn't confirm nor deny that their product was a Pokeblock, but did confirm they were selling a secret product that would guarantee a coordinator a win in a contest. Hearing this, the coordinator was intrigued, and was extra intrigued to hear that the product was a secret product, so after confirming that he wanted to buy it, Jesse and James guided him down a nearby alleyway to their alleyway store, apparently known as Dr. Croc's Pokeblock Shop, where Meowth, who was disguised as a small old man, was sitting at a table, which the coordinator then also sat at, per Meowth's request. Then, Meowth tries to further convince the coordinator that they truly were selling a secret product, as Meowth makes the coordinator swear secrecy, and the coordinator does. But Meowth still made it seem like he was skeptical of the coordinator, as he pulled out a magnifying glass and investigated him both on his body and his personality, asking him a bunch of questions about his contests to make sure he truly was a coordinator, which made the coordinator nervous, but he was able to answer all the questions effectively, since he was a true coordinator. With this being confirmed, Meowth starts to explain what the secret product they were selling was, mentioning how, as a coordinator, he should know that the judges test cuteness, cleverness, courage, classiness, and competence in contests, but there was also 2 secret categories that the judges tested, which were apparently coolness and something he called charismagnetism. Just then, Jesse and James disappeared for a second and reappeared, now disguised as customers, with James holding his Cacnea and Wobbuffet beside Jesse. They did this so that they could demonstrate what the products did, as Meowth then revealed to the customer what the secret product was, being actually 2 products, gold and silver Pokeblocks, and lied that these Pokeblocks improved all the basic conditions for contests that everyone knew about, but also the secret conditions that Meowth had just mentioned, with the gold blocks raising a Pokemon's coolness, and the silver ones improving their charismagnetism, whatever that fucking was. Obviously, these weren't actual Pokeblocks, nor were these actual traits that contest judges judged, but that's why Jesse and James disguised themselves as customers so that they could prove that it actually worked, or at least falsely prove that the blocks actually worked. They did so by coming up in front of the man and letting Meowth give a gold Pokeblock to Wobbuffet first, and once Wobbuffet had the gold Pokeblock, it quickly ate it, and then Meowth started talking to the customer about how he could potentially give him a good deal. Although this was just to distract him, so that Wobbuffet and Jesse and James could disappear momentarily, and then they re-emerged with Wobbuffet now wearing a secret agent suit and hat, looking and acting really tough and cool, which was the goal, as the gold Pokeblock was supposed to make the Pokemon really cool. Once Meowth stopped distracting the coordinator, he turned around and he saw how cool Wobbuffet was and was convinced and very happy, so he paid them full price, not even worrying about getting a discount for the Pokeblocks. Specifically, he bought the entire pack and then started crying with joy as he ran off, excited to use them. Though, as the coordinator left, Team Rocket just laughed to themselves, proud that their scam had worked. And we then see what Team Rocket's scam was, as we see a flashback of them painting regular-ass Pokeblocks, gold and silver, so they were just regular-ass ones, nothing special. Team Rocket then cheered, thinking that they would make a whole bunch of cash once they were able to sell a whole bunch more fake gold and silver Pokeblocks to other coordinators. Meanwhile, while May was doing her training for the contest with Beautyfly, Ash was waiting in the contest hall with Max, with Ash sitting on a bench with him, while Max was reading the contest guide to learn more about contests so that he could give May a few tips. May, however, had only told Max that she was going out for training, so while Ash was sitting on the bench with him, he questioned where May had gone, and Max revealed that May was currently training, surprising Ash how early May went out. Ash then realized that Brock wasn't with them either, and asked Max where he was, with Max admitting that he didn't know, although Ash looked over and saw Brock, who was going around the contest hall, flirting with any coordinator girl, or any girl in general, that he could see. Ash and Max hurriedly go to stop Brock from embarrassing themselves as they reunite with him, and immediately after this, they see none other than Drew, who greets them, recognizing them as May's friends. Drew then states that he came to this contest so he could win another ribbon to enter the Grand Festival, insinuating that he had already won other ribbons which May already knew. But he wanted to brag about his wins to Ash, Max, and Brock as well. Drew then questioned if Ash, Brock, and Max had come to the hall to enter the contest as well, but Ash replied that they just came to cheer for May. This leads Drew to both insult May, calling her a loser, and suggesting that Ash, Brock, and Max shouldn't root for her, and also insult Ash, Brock, and Max themselves, stating that the only reason they didn't enter the contest was probably because they were afraid of losing. Ash starts to yell at Drew, claiming that he wasn't afraid. And this leads to an argument, with Drew arguing that he was afraid, and Ash arguing that he wasn't, so Drew decides to end the argument by having Ash prove if he was afraid or not, by challenging Drew to a battle, stating that if Ash actually had the galls to fight him, then maybe he wasn't such a pussy. Ash was surprised that Drew was challenging him, thinking that he didn't like to battle that often, and only really did contests, but Drew confirmed that he was a great battler as well, and Ash, wanting to battle anyone who was a good battler, accepted the challenge, also wanting to prove that he wasn't afraid. So, the battle began with Ash sending out his Taillow, and Drew sending out his Roselia, with Taillow starting off the battle with a quick attack. Roselia then jumps into the air, shaking off the quick attack as it uses a magical leaf, though Taillow was able to fly past this and dodge it, leading Roselia to go for a petal dance next, but Taillow dodged again and started heading straight for Roselia, which Brock and Max cheered for. Ash then remarks that Drew shouldn't have got so cocky, reminding him that apparently, right before the battle, which we didn't see on screen, Drew specifically asked to battle Taillow, even though he knew that his Roselia had a disadvantage, because he thought that all of Ash's other Pokemon would be way too easy for him to beat. Anyways, back to the battle, Taillow goes in for a peck, but Roselia counters with a Stun Spore to try and slow Taillow down. So Ash quickly calls for Taillow to roll out of the way, so it swerves up high, but the Stun Spore simply moved up to it and paralyzed Taillow, making it hard for it to move, and sending it falling to the ground, which May watched as she could see the battle going on from her training spot. And she was surprised to see Taillow losing to Roselia, and also surprised to see Drew battling Ash in general. May then decides to come out from the bushes she was in to go over to Ash and Drew to see the rest of the battle. And right as May arrived, Roselia used a well-aimed charged-up Solar Beam to knock out Taillow and win the battle, leaving Ash frustrated that he lost as he recalled Taillow back, and Brock officially declared Drew the winner as he had been the ref of the match. May was extremely shocked to see Ash actually lose the match. Drew then taunted Ash, explaining why he lost, being that both the trainer and the Pokemon had to be on the same wavelength, stating that Ash's Taillow was as confused as Ash was. Which may have seemed like a good thing because, hey, that meant that the trainer and Pokemon were technically on the same wavelength because they were both confused. But Drew clarified that it had to be a good wavelength, specifically a wavelength of teamwork, where basically the trainer and Pokemon could communicate well. That's really what the same wavelength meant. It meant being able to order your Pokemon around and then being able to understand thoroughly. Drew then continues to taunt, stating that battling was just as easy as contests for him. After hearing all of the insults that Ash had taken throughout Drew's statements and Drew's cockiness, May thought about telling him off and sticking up for Ash, but she knew that Drew wouldn't listen, so she didn't see the point, as Drew eventually walked off, and Ash, May, Brock, and Max returned to the Pokemon Center for the night, as the contest wasn't until tomorrow. Later that night, May and Beautyfly went out to the balcony of the Pokemon Center, overlooking the contest hall and the moon, as they were too excited to sleep, thinking about the contest tomorrow. Although the longer she stayed outside, the more doubtful she became that she would actually be able to win, remembering Grace and Drew's words that they had said to her, and basically worrying that maybe they were right. May eventually sighs in worry, stressing about tomorrow, as Beautyfly tries to calm her down, and she then goes to sleep. The next day, we then see Team Rocket, who had now made their fake Pokéblock scam more widespread, which in turn allowed Team Rocket to make a whole bunch more money, much to their joy, as a lot of customers were convinced to buy shit. In order to convince coordinators to buy their fake Pokeblocks, or fake gold and silver Pokeblocks rather, James had disguised himself as a woman who was into decorating and proceeded to use the fake silver Pokeblocks on his Cacnea, decorating it with flowers and making it look cute. Just then, May approached with Beautyfly, who was resting on her head, and she became intrigued upon seeing the crowd that had gathered in front of Team Rocket's little shop stand, and she inquired one of the coordinators that was there what was going on, leading one of the coordinators to explain. Meowth then spots May and immediately alerts James and Jesse, panicking on what they were going to do if May found out about their scam. So Jesse and James began to try and think of a plan. Although James wasn't much help thinking of a plan, since he was too busy still decorating his Cacnea with the fake silver Pokeblocks. Although, thankfully for Team Rocket, May didn't seem like she had caught on to their scam at all, as she was thinking about getting some of the Pokeblocks here for her Beautyfly, thinking that if she were to give Beautyfly one of the silver Pokeblocks, then maybe she could actually win the contest. So she picked up a silver Pokeblock and began to examine it, fantasizing about Beautyfly winning the contest because of it, when suddenly her fantasy was interrupted as Grace and her Medicham came up to her
and warned her, along with all the other coordinators, not to buy any of these Pokeblocks, suspecting that Team Rocket were scammers.
May questions how Grace knew for sure, leading Grace to state that with her contest expertise, she could recognize a real Pokeblock, and knew that the Pokeblocks that Team Rocket were selling were not real, and demanded that everyone let them go. May realized that it was a fake, so she dropped it, apologizing to Beautyfly for even thinking of giving it a fake Pokeblock. Team Rocket tried to argue that they weren't scammers, but they were unable to, as Grace questioned them on what berries they used to make the Pokeblocks, and obviously, since Team Rocket hadn't used any berries, they couldn't answer this. So, Grace knew for a fact that Team Rocket were scammers. Grace then expressed her disappointment in a lot of the coordinators being willing to buy so-called miracle product Pokeblocks, when coordinators should be mixing their own Pokeblocks to give them their own personal touch with their own Pokemon. May realized that Grace was right, and fell to her knees in despair, promising Beautyfly that from now on she would make her own Pokeblocks for it, and win the natural way. Some of the coordinators were still hesitant to believe that Team Rocket were scamming them, so Grace became determined to prove it, as she told her Medicham to use Psychic on Team Rocket, which removed their disguises, including Wobbuffet's secret agent disguise. Upon seeing Team Rocket revealed, everyone agreed that Team Rocket's clothes made them look like fucking scammers. So they saw that Grace was telling the truth. Grace just laughed her ass off, though, baffled that people actually fell for Team Rocket's scam to begin with. With Grace distracted from laughing, Team Rocket took the opportunity to say their motto and get in their Meowth balloon, with the motto involving Meowth's magnifying glass. Team Rocket began to fly away in their Meowth balloon, taunting everyone as Wobbuffet forcibly popped out of its Pokeball, although before they left, they made sure to do some damage by sending out 5 mechanical arms and catching Medicham, Beautyfly, and a coordinator's Teddiursa, a coordinator's Meryl, and a coordinator's Wigglytuff. Team Rocket then happily began to fly away in their Meowth balloon, but Grace ordered Medicham to use its strongest psychic that it could muster, and because of this psychic, it lifted up the 5 arms that had extended from the Meowth balloon, dropping the Teddiursa, Meryl, Wigglytuff, and Medicham, and Beautyfly. And with their Pokemon free, the coordinators that owned the Meryl, Wigglytuff, and Teddiursa were able to catch their Pokemon, and Grace and May did the same to their Medicham and Beautyfly. Despite having the Pokemon back, though, May wasn't done, as she had Beautyfly grab the Meowth balloon with a string shot to stop it from moving. Unfortunately, though, James dealt with this by sending out his Cacnea and having it use Pin Missile to cut the string shot, freeing the Meowth balloon and allowing it to move again. Jessie then sends out her Seviper and has it use Poison Tail, trying to hit Beautyfly to stop it from doing anything else, although Medicham then jumps into the air to protect Beautyfly by using a high jump kick before Seviper could even charge up its Poison Tail, and also knocking Seviper out. Cacnea then goes to use Pin Missile on Beautyfly, but Beautyfly simply dodged and hit Cacnea with Tackle to send it flying inside the Meowth balloon. Medicham then uses an Ice Punch on Cacnea as well as Seviper's knocked out body, and as a result, Cacnea ends up blowing a hole in the Meowth balloon, and Seviper ends up inside the Meowth balloon basket, just as Cacnea had a few seconds ago, and this sends Team Rocket blasting off. Grace then praises May on her good job with her Beautyfly, as May happily celebrated beating Team Rocket, although May thanked Grace in return, stating that Grace did all the work. Grace just laughed at this, and suggested that May should give herself some credit. Later on, it was now time for the Fall Arbor contest to actually begin, as we then see a huge audience having gathered both inside and outside the concert hall, including Ash, Brock, and Max and Pikachu, as they all watched as all the coordinators, including May, Drew, and Grace, stood on the main stage, ready for the opening ceremony. May happened to be standing next to Drew, so this just reminded her of how tough her competition was going to be between both Grace and Drew, having doubts that she would win, but she tried her best to clear these doubts from her mind, and told herself that she didn't even care that Drew was there, stating that he meant nothing to her, and she could beat him easily. I guess we'll see about that in the next episode.